Hello, is that Dawn?
Yes,
How you Dawn? This is Eamon calling you from Ireland.
I love Ireland. I know it rains a lot, but I like it. Oh yeah, I toured there. Long time ago, we toured with Accept. It was a bad time we went there. It was during the war.
Dark days indeed.
Oh yeah, they came and they searched our bus, and the hotel had barbed wire and fences. And they told us we went to town like, that's a Catholic bar, that's a Protestant bar.
Did you go into any bars when you were in Belfast?
Yeah, and I said, well, I don't understand. How are they going to know if I'm Protestant or Catholic? How the fuck would they know, you know? and they says, they know. Yeah, it was a bad time there for you guys.
I want to go back to the start of 2020, the Metal Hall of Fame. You got an award that night. How was that all for you?
Well, I mean, I was very flattered. I mean, I was very honored, of course. I was surprised to get nominated, but it was great. I mean, I was kind of sick when I did that. I'd just gotten out of the hospital, and so I wasn't feeling great, but I made it. And I sang a song, but I wasn't feeling great at the show, to tell you the truth. I got through it, and, it was a nice honor. Of course it is.
Like everyone else in the industry, you had a whole year of things planned, including the Dokken Lynch mob reunion shows.
We had 27 shows booked, a big tour, and it all went to hell in a handbasket with the COVID,
That must be so disappointing for you, given that, I mean, even for the fans, that's a dream package, isn't it?
Yeah, I think everybody was very excited about the tour. George coming on stage and playing a few songs, and Lynch mob opening up. And, everything just stopped.
As you say, plans get derailed this year and everyone's in the same boat. However, you've got Lost songs coming out. You must be excited to be releasing that.
Yes, I'm glad, that we have some new music coming out, new old music. And I just thought it might be interesting. When I found the tapes, I didn't know I had them. They've been sitting in a box for over 35 years,
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know I had them, and I was cleaning my garage, and I found them, and I said, what the hell are these, And but when I put them on the machine and played them back, it definitely brought back a lot of memories, that's for sure.
Obviously, Dokken have went through various band members and various eras, and this ties it all up because you're going right back to pre-George Lynch, but then wrapping it right up with John Levin playing on it.
Yeah, it's before Jeff and Mick and Jeff. This was way back before I met them, so it's the very, very beginning. And I just figured, well, it might be interesting for the hardcore Dokken fans to see where I came from and where I started and how I was writing and how I was singing and, when I was in my 20s, So I thought it'd be interesting. It was a harder record to make than I thought. I was just going to take the songs and just put them out, but, they needed a lot of work. They didn't sound good. They needed to be mixed. They sounded like shit, because I didn't know what I was doing at 25 years old. I didn't know anything. So that's why we put new drums on and new guitars and some new solos and stuff like that.
Are you playing any guitar on it? Because I know you had an accident that made guitar playing difficult.
Yeah, well, I play guitar in these songs because it was 35 years ago. Most guitar playing's me, but yeah, I was just coming from the hospital right now, having my therapy. Yeah, my right hand, I can't play guitar anymore, so it's over. My right hand is paralyzed, so.
That must be a really tough thing to face.
Yeah, it's been 7 months. I'd just gotten my surgery a couple of months before the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they kept saying, just be patient. Your hand will come back. You get your feeling back, and be patient. But it's been 7 months, and my hand still doesn't. It's doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's the way it is. Sometimes bad things happen. I'm not happy about it, but I played guitar for 50 years, so I guess I got some good time in.
One of the tracks that's been released was the track Step Into the Light.
Oh, it was just a song that I'd written and never finished, and the record company wanted to put that song out for some reason. And I said, well, okay. and that was a song that wasn't finished. It needed guitar solos, and I had to fix some of the bass, and I don't know why they wanted that one. I don't make these decisions. The record company makes the decision. So
I find it amazing that for a band that had, massive success in America, that you actually began your recording career in Europe and in Germany. Is that not crazy for you as well, that you had to come to Europe to sign a record deal?
yeah, I mean, we're probably one of the only LA bands that did that. That I made that decision to leave LA. And people always say, "Why'd you leave LA?" Because the rock and roll scene was happening in Sunset Strip, and I said, "Well, that's really not true." In the late '70s, it was all new wave, Blondie and Depeche Mode, and all those bands were really popular. Not 1980. So, Van Halen had broken out with their first album in I think '77, '78, but that was about the only band that broke out of LA. And then when the new wave thing came, I just couldn't do it. I don't like that kind of music. It's not my kind of music. And I was listening to European bands like Saxon and Accept and Scorpions, and they just done Virgin Killer and Fly the Rainbow, and it was just luck that somebody owned a club there in Hamburg and invited us to go there. He was a musician, so he had equipment. He had drums and amplifiers, and so he just said, "Buy yourself some plane tickets, and I'll book you a bunch of shows." He took a chance. We had nothing to lose. We weren't playing on the Hollywood Strip anymore. It was all new wave.
Was it because you were in Europe and working in those circles that you started working with the Scorpions for the Blackout album?
Yes, it was just like we had a guy with us because I didn't speak. None of us spoke German, and we had a young kid named Nico LaFrance, and he spoke good English, and he had worked with the Scorpions on their first American tour as like an interpreter. They didn't speak that good of English, and he said, "I know the Scorpions, and I know Dieter Dierks, their producer." And so we were playing in Hamburg, and Dieter came to one of my shows, and we started talking, and he said, "Oh, you have vibrato like Klaus, same vibrato in your voice." And I said, "Yeah, I do sing a lot like Klaus." And that's when he just said that, Klaus had some problems with his voice, but I'd like to do some background vocals. And so it was just luck, because my road manager on that tour knew Dieter and the Scorpions. He introduced us, and that's when I was already there. I was already in Germany, so I went to his studio in Cologne, and I just did some background vocals, that's all.
What do you remember about being in the studio? What tracks did you sing? Were the other band members present? What was it like, the actual session?
Actually, the band, when I sang, they weren't there. It was just Dieter and I in the studio working. They came in, they'd listen, I met them all, we'd hang out, play video games, and because there was, the band Accept was in the studio at the same time. It was Accept, Scorpions, Rory Gallagher was in the studio at the same time, and I hung out with Rory a lot. He was a really nice guy, and I was sad when he passed away too young. And so I would go down to the pub with Rory and Rudy and Herman, and we'd get drunk. I mean, we were all drinkers, and then so yeah, it was just. I can't honestly say. People say, "What did you sing on?" I don't know. All I sang was the high parts on the harmony. Like, "You Give Me All I Need," "No One Like You," "Dynamite." Just the very, 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 very high notes. Klaus could save his voice. But I don't know, honestly, what Dieter kept and what he didn't keep. Yeah, I can hear myself. I can hear my voice in some of the songs.
I wanted to jump forward just a little bit. Monsters of Rock Tour, Metallica, Scorpions, Dokken, Van Halen, Kingdom Come. Even to this day, that is still one of the classic lineups. What was it like being a part of that tour?
Well, I would say it was the pinnacle of rock and roll, 88, 89. I mean, It was the biggest tour ever put together to that point. I mean, we were doing 100,000 people a day. That's a lot of people, and with 5 of the biggest bands in the world, you know. So it was, you know, it was exciting that I'd come from playing clubs on the Reeperbahn and, you know, playing clubs in Hamburg, and here I am in a stadium. It was pretty scary. And the only thing I didn't like about that tour is that Metallica went on before us, and they kicked our ass every day. So they did. I can be honest about that. Playing after Metallica was a very, very hard thing to do.
They were on the rise at that point.
And they were heavier. You know, even though we'd had more hits, you know, we were on MTV, and people saw us as being more famous at the time than Metallica. You know, they were much heavier than us, so they kicked our butts. So
that was the end of an era then, wasn't it, really? I mean, the band split shortly after that. Do you kind of look back and go, I wish we could have went on, or was that the right time for that band to go your separate ways?
No, I think if we would have made one more record after the stadium tour, one more record, and we could have went out and did a world tour headlining, because by then we were famous enough to go out and play headlining. And we should have made one more record and at least gone out and done a whole world tour, and that would have been a good way to go out. And that was the plan. The plan was, you know, another record, do a huge tour, and headline, do the whole world for a year and a half. But, you know, as you know, we were just too much infighting in the band, too much arguing. I just didn't have the stomach for it. I was just so tired of 7 years of fighting for every record and fighting for every song and arguing about what songs to do. And it was just always, George and I were just always could not see eye to eye on which direction we were going, you know? And I admit I'm more of a melodic guy. I sing very melodic. I'm not a heavy metal guy, you know? George wanted to go more heavy. He was listening to bands like Monster Magnet and bands like this. And I like those bands, but I just kept saying to the boys, this is not what Dokken's about.
I was interested to know what it was like working with John Norum.
Oh, yeah, I mean, John is amazing. I mean, to me, he sounds so much like a cross between Michael Schenker and Uli Roth. You know, he's so good. John Norum is like, wow, he was just an amazing guitar player. And because he was so young, you know, I mean, when he joined my band, he was only, I think, like 21 or something like that, 22 years old. I think he joined Europe when he was like 17 or 18, very young. So he was for his age, he was amazing, you know.
You're currently working on a new album, and I believe it's the first studio album since 2012. What can you tell us about the status of that album and what's going on with it?
Well, as luck would have it, because I had this misfortune to have this surgery and I lost my arm, I can't play anymore. So when I was working on these Lost Tapes songs from a long time ago, I found other songs that John and I had written for Broken Bones. Like, we found like 6 or 7 songs that we never finished. And I was playing guitar on them, thank God. And I said to John, what do you think? Are they good enough? Are they not good enough? And he said, no, there's some really good songs here. So we've been working on those the last couple of months. And I'd say that the new album it's almost over halfway done. The only thing that happened to stop this is when I had my surgery. I was very, you know, weak after that. I couldn't walk, you know, I couldn't, my legs were weak, not just my arm, my legs, my back, you know, I couldn't walk very well, couldn't drive.
Can you tell us any update on Mick Brown, if he'll be joining you again, or is he retired for good?
Yeah, he's retired for good. I mean, he didn't retire because he wanted to. He had to. He couldn't play anymore. And he's just worn out. His legs, his hips, his hands, his elbows, feet. You know, being a professional football player, you can't keep playing football into your 60s. You can't do it. I always told people, Nick has the hardest job in the band, playing drums every night. And, you know, the same thing happened to Neil Peart, right? Neil Peart had to retire amazing drummer, and he had to quit Rush because his back was gone. And then there was that jazz drummer, Buddy Rich, and play anymore. And I know a lot of drummers that are, famous drummers. I won't say who they are, but they're having a lot of problems, with their back and their hands, their arms, their legs, because you just wear out. And Nick just said, I'm in too much pain all the time. I can't do it anymore. So he quit. He retired, sold his drums. Luckily, he made enough money in Dokken. They can live the rest of his life. He doesn't have to work. And that's it. He's done.
Dokken are rare visitors to Europe. The last time you were here was for the Ramblin' Man Festival. Any chance we'll be seeing you over here? And more to the point, do you think you'll be able to bring the Dokken/Lynch reunion over this way?
Don't know. We were hoping to play Rambling Man this year. We were supposed to play the Dokken Festival, Swedish Rock, Dynamo in Italy. We had all those shows booked, and everything got canceled. So Rambling Man everything's canceled. So I'm thinking next year we'll probably come to Europe, and George will open up for us, maybe. These decisions I cannot make. It's up to the promoters. If they want to see George play with me, he'll come on stage for 3 or 4 songs, and that's what we'll do. I can't predict the future.